part 2 of video with Vito.
Raimondi.
Raimondi, I always forget it. Vito, we talked last time about your early life, your life in Italy, coming to America, and some of your practices as a barber. But let's get into your first years here, and then you're involved in various activities, and you got married and had a family. Tell us all about that.
Well, the first year was a little bit difficult because you don't understand the language. But I knew how to take the bus to go downtown. So on Wednesday, when the barbershop was closed, I used to go downtown to watch movies.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody used to call me stupid because to spend money and go see movies that you don't understand a word. But I wanted to learn English, to get the sound in my ears. And after the movies, I would walk downtown, go to different stores just to watch, just to listen people talk. Then a friend, Nino, he introduced us, myself and my brother. He came like a year later. We went to the Italian Catholic Federation, Group 98. It was the only youth group in the United States at that time. And from there, the social life got better.
What were you, about 20?
Yes, I was 20 when I joined the Catholic Federation. And, we met a lot of people. They had a lot of things going on, dance once a month.
Where did they meet, and who was the leader?
The president at the time when I joined was Giulio Centrone. And we used to meet in the basement of the Our Lady of Angels, the church on Emmeline and Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
And, started making friends, this and that. I was interested in sport, always was. So we made a soccer team. We sent and bought the Juventus Jersey. And we used to come to play at the Sacred Heart Seminary.
Here, yeah.
Yes, here. Against the kids that wanted to become a priest.
The seminary, yeah.
Yeah, the seminarian. And Father Framarin at that time was the director. When he played soccer, he was not a priest, he was a devil. Yeah, that guy really knew how to play. He was something. He ran like...
He was the director of the soccer team, or
no,
was
seminary,
he director of the whole seminary?
The whole seminary, yeah, Father Framarin. We used to have picnics over here, and other activities. Then we made the bowling league. And we used to have the bowling league at Holiday Bowl, which doesn't exist anymore, on Harlem and Lawrence Avenue.
What did an Italian immigrant make of bowling? Were you attracted to it, or was it?
Well, in the beginning, we were attracted to a lot of things because it's like when we were in Italy, all of us, that was our world, in the hometown.
Yeah.
When we came over here, the world got a lot bigger. So some people took advantage. And some people remained what they were, back in Italy. Myself, when I saw the opportunity, I embraced it. So start going to the bowling, start going to the cinema, to the theater. I've seen all the American classic musicals with famous actors from Hollywood. So, I embraced that. Like, I went swimming without knowing how to nuotare. And I loved it because it was something better for me. The world got a lot bigger, a lot of things that I did not know. And when my customers saw that I wanted to learn, they would help me with English. The first hockey game that I saw my customer took me to see the hockey game.
You're a hockey fan?
Yeah, I used to.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped when Bobby Hall left, 1972. I've seen a lot of games. But it's not the same game as, in the 60s and in the early 70s.
So, is that where you met your wife in the Italian Catholic Federation?
No, I met my wife through a mutual friend that, I have a little bit difficult personality. I'm not perfect, but I want everything around me to be perfect, which that's not that good,
Mm-hmm.
And this friend used to live in those days right across from where we lived. Then she moved, she got married. But we saw each other once and, Vito, why didn't you get married yet? This and that. I was 27, 28 years old. And she said, I know a nice Sicilian girl but she's not allowed to go anywhere, only to work. She used to go to work at Motorola with the mother.
Mm-hmm.
And we met, we created a little bit of, we just bought a house in Franklin Park. So on Monday, I used to go and make sure that the house was okay, no broken window, thing like that. So how are we going to meet, with this girl? So I said to her, on Monday, it was summertime, I go fill up the car with gas, which was right across from Motorola. And I said, why don't you tell her, come on, let's go for a Coke. It's a beautiful day, this and that. And like we haven't seen each other for many years, but don't tell her, anything. Don't say that this guy is interested, because if I don't like her, then she's going to feel offended,
Mm-hmm.
And I liked her.
Had you met her before, or this was
No,
the first
no.
time?
No, the funny thing or the strange thing was that she lived half a block from where I was working.
Mm-hmm.
And, because I served in the Italian mess, I used to sing and I used to read from the book. I never seen her because she was old Sicilian style. She was almost under lock and key. She could not go anywhere.
How old was she?
She's 1 year younger than I am. So I'm 72, she's 71.
So she was in her mid-20s
Yeah,
at the time
yeah.
when she was being chaperoned.
Yes. Yeah.
Strictly, yeah, okay.
Well, to go out with my wife, I used to take my grandmother, which in those days she was in the 90s. So I used to take my grandmother from my house, which then we moved to Franklin Park. I used to go get my wife, then go back home, leave my grandmother, and go to the theater, because that's what we did. I would take her to the cinema, to theater, to see the shows. And then when it was over, I didn't even go for pizza because I had to bring her home. So my grandmother used to wait.
And your grandmother had to appear
Yes.
when you dropped
Yes,
her off.
yes.
Oh, your girlfriend.
And my grandmother really loved my wife. And so did my wife, they were in love with each other.
Mm-hmm.
My wife, because I was named after my grandfather, my grandmother's husband.
Mm-hmm.
So I always had a special, I always cared about my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it started.
So tell me a little bit about the courtship and then about the wedding.
The courtship was difficult because I had to have a chaperone.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we went to see Godfather Part 2 at Mercury Theater in Harlem, and I had to take my sister along
Mm-hmm.
because I was not allowed. As a matter of fact, they lived in Edison on the second floor. They had their own building, and she used to come and open the door for me because she wanted me to go for dinner by her every evening.
Mm-hmm.
And the father and the mother, they didn't want her to come downstairs because I was going to kiss her. And my father-in-law was in the wheelchair, but I could hear from upstairs screaming. The old Sicilian style.
Did you have to talk to him before you took her out? And what did he say to you?
Well, they did not like it, but they had no other choice because they figured she was already of age,
Mm-hmm.
even though they wanted to go back to Italy because they had property in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's a long story for them. They came to America not like me that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
They came to America for other reason. And, the intention was to bring her back to the town and marry her with somebody that had more property. Okay? So when I come, all those future projects came crashing on them. So at first we got along really good, but then things started getting a little sour because I would not bend.
Mm-hmm.
They want someone that comes to the house, sit down and be quiet. They call it respect, but so when they saw that I would respect but not bend, things start getting a little sour. And
So how long between when you met her and
a
you
little
married
over
her?
a year, a little over a year.
Mm-hmm.
A little over a year. So, we've been together. Nobody would bet on both sides,
Mm-hmm.
on my side and her side, that we would stay together. But it's been 44 years, and we're still together.
Okay.
We have 2 kids, and a boy and a girl, and 3 grandchildren. So we came a long way.
So what was the wedding like?
The wedding, was a little cold because my side of the family, aside from my father and my grandmother, they liked my wife. But the rest of my family didn't care for her because she was Sicilian.
Mm.
On my wife's side, they didn't care for me because I was not Sicilian. So it was the same thing. Okay. And so it was a little bit, I was not looked upon
So,
as welcome in the family.
so how many bridesmaids were there? How many people came? Was it a
We
peanut
had-
wedding?
We had 150 people. The bridesmaids were mostly, I don't remember exactly, but mostly friends of mine from the Italian Catholic Federation. She had some, that were friends with her. So the wedding, as a matter of fact, was officiated by Father Feccia
Oh,
at
okay.
St. Joseph in Edison, and he was late. He couldn't find the church. For real.
So how late was he?
Oh, probably anywhere between 10 minutes and 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So,
that gets people a little bit nervous.
Yeah, a little bit nervous, but everything turned out okay. Nothing happened at the reception. Nothing, everything was okay. But you could feel the chill, because two different they did not like for the same reason.
Hmm. Did they like the food?
Oh yeah, the food was
Everybody.
very good. We, like me and my wife, we agreed that we should invite people only that we like, not everybody.
Hmm.
Okay, so when I told my mother, she did not like that because she wanted to invite everybody, but I said, it's my wedding, and she made me happy because, I have a different personality than my brother and my sister, because I was raised by my mother's sister. I was raised different. Not that I'm bad or worse, it was just different situation. So my mother, she knew that she had to agree with me because I think very different than everybody else. And my wife did the same thing. Now I don't know what problem she had with her side of the family. So we had about 170 people.
Where at?
I don't know if the place existed or was Parkview Villa. Was on Fullerton by Reese Park.
Okay.
We knew the people there because we had, when we had the bowling banquet, we used to go there, so they knew who we were, things like that.
And did you go on a honeymoon trip?
Oh yes, yeah. I took my wife for 45 days in Italy. We stayed a little bit in my hometown.
45 days?
Yeah.
Oh, a month and a half.
Yeah, a month and a half. So first we stayed a few days in my hometown, and my uncle, the one that raised me, fell in love with my wife. Right away, both they liked each other. My aunt, she liked my wife, but not that much. She was a little bit different. And so then I took my wife on a 3 weeks tour of Italy with the rail pass. Then we came back. We stayed a few more days, to rest, and then we went on to Sicily to meet the rest of the
That
family.
was the hard part.
Well, it turned out to be great. The hard part was that I did not know what was going to happen. So on the train, I told my wife, if the family in Sicily is like the one in Chicago, we stay a couple of days because she has a lot of nephew, nieces, it's a large family, or was because a lot of people have died. And I said, I take you another 2-3 weeks, we take the train and we see more stuff in Italy, But when we got over there, something really beautiful.
So, what town was she from?
Campo Felice di Roccella.
Oh, yeah, that's
So
Ciminello's
the people,
town.
it was like the prince and the princess have come. Some people were not on speaking terms, and they made peace.
That's good.
It was a great experience, and I had the movie camera with me, Kodak, and we were invited all over the place. They took us to the beach, in the mountains. It was really. So it turned out to be
you
great.
still have those movies?
Oh yeah.
Did you digitize them?
No. I have it, but I have not digitized it.
Oh, you should. There's what, Super 8 or?
Yeah, Super 8. Yeah, talkies.
Yeah. Well, think about digitizing them for at least for the sake of your grandkids. Or,
Yeah.
Now, you both spoke Italian. You're both
Yes,
born in Italy.
When before I went to meet my future in-law, which at the time I did not know, I was hoping. I told my wife I have 3 rules. One rule is that we both work, but she was already working, she had her own car, so there was no problem. Second, we teach our children our culture. And third, nobody comes into our home and tell us what to do. It's our home, because Italian parents, they like to, so, and my mother, she had a great smile, this and that, but because I was almost like a stranger in the family, because I started living with my parents on a boat coming from Italy. I used to see them every day, but I never lived with them. So for me now I had to adjust to a new situation. I could not joke with my father because he was a very nice person, but he was serious. I could not tell a joke. I could not. Instead, with my uncle and my aunt, I was free to do anything I wanted. For them, I was like a prince. And so when I took my son for the first time in Italy, he was 4 years old. It was 1981. We arrived on Sunday night. When I woke up Sunday morning, my son already had a bike. My uncle went and bought him a bike, a folding bike. And I took the bike all the way to America. I just gave it to the Salvation Army, well, because we put it in the suitcase. And so.
Did your kids learn Italian?
Oh, yeah. Now my daughter speaks mostly Italian with us. My son speaks always English. He refuses. He's like most kids born in this country. They have no accent because they speak Italian. They have no accent. That they are from Bari or from Sicily. No, they speak Italian. At one time they could read and write Italian because they went to school. And I made sure that when they wrote something, this and that, I correct them all the time. My son has been in Italy once by himself for sports. My daughter was in Italy. The last time was probably 4 years ago on a tour of northern Italy. And she got the best compliment from the tour guide. The tour guide told her that, for an Italian girl, you speak very good English. And my daughter said, because I am from there, I was born and raised over there. So, but, they grow up, they don't have no Italian friends that speak Italian. And so things, change.
Okay, and so going on, what about citizenship? How did you handle that?
I handled that right before I got married because I didn't want something to happen to me that happened to a cousin of mine. A cousin of mine, he came to America when he was a young boy. And he came to Italy one year, probably was 62, 61, with the wife. He was a grown man now and this and that. And he got arrested on the street in Palermo because he didn't go into the Italian army. And he left when he was a kid, Now, they released him quickly because when he showed that he was an American citizen, but still he got arrested as a deserter. Yeah. So I didn't want this thing to happen to me because after I left Italy, my brother was living with my uncle and aunt in my parents' house. They were renting. And the police went, they were looking for me, the carabinieri. Where is your, so-and-so? And my brother said, he's in the United States. So they sent me a letter from the Italian consulate here to go fill some paper that I had emigrated. So every time I had to go to Italy, I had to go first the Italian consul to get the permission. And on the paper was that how long I was going to stay. When I arrived in my town, I had to go to the Carabinieri station, give them and then I had to go pick it up the day before. So before I became citizen, when I went to get, this was 1971, when I went and got the paper back, the permit, the Maresciallo asked me, are you sure you're leaving tomorrow morning? And I said, yes, I'm leaving. Why you ask? He said, because if you don't leave, we come and pick you up. So I figured, I'm going to go on a honeymoon. I better, not only that, but to get the barber license, I had to sign a paper saying that someday I will become American. They called it at the time half citizenship paper. So I figured between that and that, I might as well do it. because most Italian, when they come to America, someday they want to go back.
Did you know of anybody who went back to Italy and got arrested and inducted into the army?
No, I've heard yes, but personally no. Aside from my cousin.
Okay. And was there any thought of going into the American military?
Oh yes. Because I didn't understand English, I had to bring a cousin with me, an old lady, but she was one of those that helped us quite a bit. Was my mother cousin, and I remember it was on the street was Van Buren. I don't remember, and she came with me, to tell them that I didn't understand English, and I signed up for the army. I mean, the law, it's the law,
Yeah.
And so I went, and I didn't even realize that when I went for the military, it was my birthday. I knew a little bit English, but not that much. So when I went over there, the sergeant was talking to all the kids in the room, but I understood very little. But then I had to go to the bathroom. And I knew how to say, I want to go to the bathroom. So I went to the sergeant and I said, bathroom. Oh, you speak English. But I didn't speak English. I knew a few words. So in order to get back on track that I didn't speak English, which was true, he told me to go right. When I got to, I turned left. And he was looking at me, from the door, if I would. So he yelled at me, right, and he motioned like this. So I went to the bathroom. And I was so nervous because I didn't want to go into the army without knowing the language. Because at that time was Vietnam War. And so I met a guy from Calabria there. His name was Tony. And he saw that I had difficulty, and he said, stick with me, I will help you. So we started going from room to room, for checkup, this and that. So we went to a room where the eye doctor was there. And when he saw the name of me and the other guy said, are you Italian? Siete Italiani? And we said, yes. And he said, do you want to go home? I said, yes. So I don't know what he put on the papers, and we went home. And then I got my classification at Z, like zebra. So unless there was an emergency, they were never going to call me because at that time I didn't understand English. But a friend of mine that I went to school in Italy, he wanted to be show off. And he didn't wait for the draft to call him. He went to volunteer. And he died on the first night that he went to Vietnam. The Viet Cong attacked with bombs, and he got hit by one of those, throwing bombs. And he died. He lived in Franklin. He was the only boy in the family. He had, I think, 3 or 4 sisters. So, if I spoke English, it would be different, but I didn't. And but I did go for the checkup and all that stuff.
Okay, so
because when I came to America,
answer the draft, yeah. And then when did you finally get your citizenship?
Right before I got married, in 1975. And this lady was an Afro-American lady. I was so nervous that I froze. I couldn't even remember what the 4th of July was. I swear, I was really nervous. But because the lady was asking, she was talking to me, and she saw that I answered with easiness, she told me, I know you're very nervous and you froze. Says, you are a citizen, don't worry about it. So she gave me the okay, and I became. So
was it a judge, a big judge?
No, we
or
went.
Just a,
no, this was in a private room,
yeah,
a private room. To the jurament, when we swear to be good citizens.
Yeah.
Then we went before the judge. They went before the judge.
Okay, and have you ever felt discriminated against because you're Italian?
Of course, yes.
How?
Like I said, they used to call me stupid because I was trying to learn English.
Who called you stupid?
American kids.
The American.
Because even though I'm a Catholic, where I used to work, I used to be a pastor of a Methodist church that used to come for a haircut. Yeah, and there were kids sitting right on the steps of the church. And so they would call me stupid, that I was trying to learn English. And, other times when they didn't show it to you, but they would do things that you're not one of us. You know. But,
Well, did you find that the stereotype of the Italian barber helped you?
it did help, but the way, because to be a barber, when you start, you don't know this, but you gotta like people.
Mm-hmm.
And I never was, I was always willing to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And when my customer used to tell me something, I didn't get offended,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that was, because it was a learning process. I remember like when my boss told me the first time, Vito, you should brush your teeth every day. I would brush my teeth, but I was new from Italy. All those things were.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, thank you, Mr. Frank. And he said, you're not mad at me? And I said, no, because if you wouldn't tell me, I would not know.
Mm-hmm.
So you told me, and I learned something that now I have to do it every day.
So you wanted to Americanize.
Yes. No, like I said before, when I saw this door open and I saw, oh my gosh, I embraced it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say, oh no, I'm still Italian, but I'm American too.
Mm-hmm.
And as a matter of fact, I had, when we were in Acapulco many years ago, we were on a boat, we were on a trip to see an island.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were people entertaining us. And the guy in charge of the group entertaining us says, hooray for the Canadians, hooray for this and that. So it was me, my wife, and my daughter. I said, excuse me, what happened to the Italians? I said, are you Italian? I said, yeah, hooray for the Italians. And then there was the group of Americans, hooray for the Americans. And and the guy says to me, wait a minute, you cannot be both. And I said, no, I am both. Because Italy was my mother, and America is my stepmother. Mm. So the American,
Oh, that's a nice way to put it. So did being a citizen change things for you at all?
Well, I always felt that I was welcome here because they did allow me to come. But still today, as a Italian community, we are discriminated because you go vote. They have English, which should be the right language, Spanish, Polish, Asian, Arabs. What happened to everybody else? After all, we discovered America. As a matter of fact, if Columbus would have come straight with the paper, the map, he would have landed in Florida, which is in that time was Spanish, but it would have been Florida. But he had two brothers on board of the boat, the brothers Pinzon, which they did not like him because he was a foreigner, not because he was Italian. He was a foreigner. So they made him change, and he ended up in the Bahamas. Okay. We invented the telephone. We named America. Filippo Mazzei was one of those that helped write the United States Constitution. So we did a lot.
Where did you learn about all of this
Books.
Italian American
I
stuff?
like to read. I like to read.
Yeah.
And because my customer know my views, okay, first of all, I love Italy, not society, not the Italians. I love Italy. And I love America. And my customers know where I stand. I never change. If I believe in something, that's what I believe. So because my customer know that I love America and I love Italy, when they have some information that they come across, they bring it to me.
Oh, so
Oh yeah, they bring it to me.
that was the way you learned
Yeah,
about
that's the way I
Italian
learn,
American studies.
And then I start using the library, this and that. I like music. So I've been in the villa of Puccini, where he's buried with his wife, the son, and the daughter-in-law. I've been in the house of Verdi. I've been in the house of Bellini, all these people.
How would you classify yourself? You think you're an average immigrant of that time, or you think you're unusual for some reason?
I believe both unusual and average. Average, when I came from Italy, I knew very little because, again, we come from towns. The most we would go to the city, but that was the world. Unusual because I don't follow any rules, wherever I think it's right, unless somebody else tells me, Vito, what you're doing is wrong. And if they explain it to me and I am wrong, I will apologize and adapt the other rule. But I never followed anybody because it's got to be my life, it's my life. I got to do what's best for me or for my family.
Did you have a lot of friends who shared your tastes? You're in like going to the theater?
No, because for a 19-year-old or 20-year-old, I was very strange. When I used to go buy records from this place called the Record Center, was right behind the Pioneer Bank on North Avenue in Pulaski. I always brought my boss with me because we lived all in the same neighborhood. So I would ask him, Mr. Frank, would you come with me? And when I go there, my taste in music was different than a 19-year-old. I like big band music. I like easy listening, those big orchestra. I've always tried to learn more, more. And that made me unusual because a 19-year-old is, as a matter of fact, at least that's what my boss told me, the owner of the record store told him he should not like this type of music because at this age, they only like rock and roll. Well, I like rock and roll, which, you can see when I brought the big box the other time. But if something that is modern and I like it, I will go for it as long as I like it, as long as it does something from inside of me, that stirs up emotion. And that was unusual.
Okay, well, this has been a nice session, and we could go on more next time on your tastes, your cultural development over time, and something about religion as well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Vito
Grazie.
Raimondi.
Grazie.